I had my daughter 3 months ago, and I just found out today that my mother-in-law sent pictures of my daughter to my brother-in-law, her son, in prison. He's in prison and on the intimacy registry for having a relationship with a girl who was 14, just turned 14, when he was 27. He won't get the pictures because everything is monitored, so I'm not concerned on that aspect. But she just nonchalantly brought it up. Like, oh yeah, I sent Billy pictures of Nina and the rest of the family the other day, but I haven't heard anything back yet. Fake names, of course. She said it to her husband when my husband wasn't in the room. I snapped. She knows I don't even post pictures on social media of my kid. I asked her why she would be sending photos of my daughter to a child toucher, and she literally just stared at me, shell-shocked, and didn't say anything. Just turned back to her husband and started talking about something different. I went out to where my husband was, garage, and told him we were leaving now. Maybe it was my tone, but he immediately followed and on the way home asked what the F was going on. I told him and immediately followed it with a, she's not welcome around our daughter anymore, and she's definitely not welcome at our home. I want no pictures sent to her of our daughter either. He said he completely understands, and he's just as pissed as I am, but thinks cutting her out completely is too harsh. He says that we should just tell her she's not allowed to take pictures of our daughter under any circumstances, and tell her not to send any more photos of our daughter to his brother. I said that's not good enough. We should never have to tell her not to send our daughter's pictures to a child toucher. I will never be able to look at her or be in the same room as her, and I don't want her near my daughter at all. And therefore, my word is final, and either he cuts her out completely or we can get a divorce and bring the issue in front of a judge. I understand I went from 0 to 100, but it was his whole, well, she probably meant nothing by it talk that really ecked me up. And in that moment, I saw him as being just as bad as his mom. He says, wow, so F me, right? Yes, let me just cut off the only family I have left over a fucking mistake, or I lose you and my kid. Perfect. So glad we are compromising and talking like adults. I'm standing by my statement. If he brings her around, we will be divorced as soon as a judge will see us. A good friend of mine thinks I'm being an AH. However, it's not my husband's fault this happened. She's right. It's not his fault. But him wanting to keep his mom in our life after this is what brought this on. Am I the idiot? She did something similar with my brother-in-law's daughter, 6. His rights were terminated, and there was an open investigation to figure out whether he had been sexually harassing his daughter. Before any of us figured out what the results were, the mother blocked all of us from her and her kids. Life because my mother-in-law kept bringing photos and letters from my brother-in-law and giving them to the kid after being told she wasn't allowed to. Not only because the mother didn't want her to, but also because there was an investigation, because she didn't feel like the child's mother had any rights to take away her granddaughter's father's memory. She also believes her son is innocent, they were in a relationship, he wouldn't hurt a fly, and says she knew what she was doing in reference to the child her son was rapping. So no, I'm not going to sit down with my mother-in-law and tell her why it's wrong to send photos of my daughter to a child toucher. I shouldn't have to. She deserves no such grace. As for my husband, he has a daughter now. His only concern should be keeping his daughter safe and not exploited, not defending his mom, who sent photos of his daughter to a child toucher. I'm sure he is hurt, you guys are right, but I am still not budging on this. Don't defend pedophiles and their enablers. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You're the idiot. Yes, she's terrible. But demanding either complete no contact or divorce is the worst ultimatum. It is very much punishing him. You're not compromising. You're demanding your way or the highway. It wasn't asking him how he felt. You made a unilateral decision, and there's no excusing it. You're supposed to be partners, but in that moment, you decided only your feelings mattered. Go for the divorce. He'll get joint custody, and then he can have her over as much as he wants. You either back down or you've messed up either way. And if I were in his shoes, my trust in you would be as fractured as yours and the mother-in-law. because you've shown that if you disagree, you'll try to take his family away over it. Get help. Go low contact or supervised with her, and get yourself into therapy, personal or couples, because you've likely just scarred your marriage for good. Comment 2. I am assuming you married your husband because you believed him to be a good guy. So shouldn't you assume the best of him in any situation? You literally did not give him any time to process this. And since it seems to have escaped you, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. My 26 years of marriage have taught me. It takes men a way longer time to process information than us, and a surefire way to shut their brains down entirely is to come at them like you did with guns blazing. You need to take a step back and have a glass of water, Mama. Get a good night's sleep. Nobody is going to die tonight over this. Breathe. Give your husband time to absorb this and process his thoughts without you screaming divorce and making a bunch of ultimatums. Good grief, you sound like a real bully. Now, for the update, a lot has happened since my last post, and I'm still reeling from the fallout. After the confrontation with my mother-in-law about sending pictures of my daughter to my brother-in-law in prison, things have only escalated. My husband and I had a long, heated discussion that night. He was torn between his loyalty to his family and his duty to protect our daughter. I reminded him of the time when we first found out about his brother's conviction. We were dating back then, and I saw the pain in his eyes. He had always looked up to his brother, and the betrayal cut deep. Yet now it seemed like he was struggling to reconcile the brother he knew with the man who committed those crimes. Despite his inner turmoil, my husband agreed that our daughter's safety was paramount. He decided to confront his mother about her actions. The next day, he went over to his parents' house alone. I stayed home, my mind racing with all the possible outcomes. When he returned, he was pale and quiet. He told me that his mother had doubled down on her stance. She claimed she had a right to share her granddaughter with her son, no matter where he was. My husband, to my relief, had stood his ground. He told her in no uncertain terms that she was to have no contact with our daughter until further notice. But that wasn't the end of it. My mother-in-law, it seemed, had a history of ignoring boundaries. My husband revealed to me that when he was younger, she would often share private details of his life with relatives and family friends, despite his protests. It was a pattern of disrespect for privacy that now made sense in the context of her recent actions. The next few days were a blur of tension and whispered phone calls. My husband's father reached out to us, begging us to reconsider our stance. He reminded us of how my mother-in-law had always been the glue that held the family together, especially after my husband's sister passed away unexpectedly years ago. It was a tragedy that had softened my heart towards her in the past, but now it only served as a stark reminder that past kindness does not excuse present wrongs. Then came the bombshell. My husband received a call from his brother's ex-partner, the mother of his niece. She had heard about what happened from a mutual acquaintance and wanted to share her own story. She told us that my mother-in-law had been sending her daughter, my husband's niece, letters from her father in prison, despite the ongoing investigation and explicit instructions not to. I was floored. The realization that my mother-in-law had been undermining another mother's efforts to protect her child was chilling. It was a pattern of behavior that showed a complete disregard for the well-being of her grandchildren. The final straw came just a few days ago. My husband was at work when I received an unexpected visitor. It was my mother-in-law, unannounced and uninvited. She begged to see Nina, tears streaming down her face. She pleaded for forgiveness, saying she didn't understand the harm she had done. I stood firm, my resolve not to let her near my daughter unwavering. We argued on the doorstep, her pleas becoming more desperate. That's when she dropped a revelation that left me speechless. She confessed that she had been in contact with her son, my brother-in-law, far more than we knew. Not only had she been sending him pictures and updates about the family, but she had also been discussing potential ways for him to reconnect with his daughter once he was released. She believed that he deserved a second chance and that the family should be reunited. I was stunned. The audacity of her plans, the complete disregard for the safety and well-being of her grandchildren, was beyond comprehension. I told her to leave and that she would never be allowed near Nina again. My husband came home to find me shaking with anger. I told him everything, and for the first time I saw the same fury in his eyes that I felt in my heart. He agreed that his mother's actions were unforgivable. We're now considering a restraining order to ensure she can't come near our daughter. The trust is broken, and I'm not sure it can ever be repaired. My husband is struggling with the loss of his family, but he knows that our daughter's safety comes first. My father-in-law ignores my plea for space after my miscarriage, so I confront him, and what happens next leaves us all in shock. I, 32 years old and female, had a miscarriage 2 weeks ago. I was 9 weeks along. This would have been my second child. I have one son who is 20 months old. My husband, 35 years old and male, is a wonderful person. He usually goes above and beyond to be a supportive husband and an amazing father. I am very grateful to have him in my life. After my miscarriage, I explicitly told him that I didn't want people coming into our home until I physically healed and feel better mentally. He agreed to this. I usually have my friend, 33 years old and female, come over every week for a few hours to spend time with my son. They are very close. My husband told my friend that these visits would need to stop until I expressed that I was ready to see her. She said she understood, sent periodic texts to offer support, and hasn't come over since being asked to give me space. The problem is with his father, 75 years old and male. He lives across town and comes over once a week to do his laundry, every single Sunday. This is a man I genuinely do not find enjoyable to be around. He has made derogatory comments about my appearance, my family, my relationship with his son, and essentially everything I do. I've never heard him say anything kind about me in the 13 years I've been with his son. He has no manners. He takes food from my toddler, calls my toddler unkind names, says he's playing around, and shows no genuine interest in being a positive grandparent. Kicker. When I was pregnant with my son, he saw that we had purchased a car seat and stroller combo. I was pretty far along in my pregnancy when we ordered it. He literally had the nerve to say, "Don't you think it's a little soon to be buying this stuff? You don't even know if it's going to live." My husband didn't say anything back to that and was pretty bummed when he found out I heard it from the second floor of my house. After my miscarriage, I thought that my blanket statement of not wanting to see anyone was enough to get my husband to tell his dad that he would need to do his laundry elsewhere while I recovered. Apparently not. His father has been here every Sunday since my miscarriage. I retreat to my bedroom when he comes over and I stay there until he's gone. I hate this because I want to be able to enjoy my house and son while I recover. Isolating in my room limits the time I have with my son, who has been my best friend through this, and creates a general sense of loneliness. I told my husband today that I feel that he failed to support me. He was bewildered and told me I should have said something about his dad specifically. I told him, I feel that my blanket statement of not wanting to have anyone come into the home should have been enough for him to know his dad was included in that, especially because he knows the history I have with his dad. He also knows how much his dad's comment about my first pregnancy has played a role in how I feel right now when I think about having to see him. My husband told me it is my job to specify what I mean. I told him I felt it wasn't fair for him to expect me to hold his hand through what I felt like was an obvious request and one that would be easy to honor. Am I the jerk for expecting my husband to understand that his dad was included in that blanket statement? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. It's interesting that he promptly dismissed visits from Op's friend, but conveniently kept visits from his father, who is an AH with Op and his own grandson. Op's husband is an even bigger AH than his father. Comment 2, is his father a person? Then his father is explicitly and obviously included in the statement, I do not want people at the house until I have recovered. Not the idiot, but both the husband and his father are. Now for the update. Hey Reddit, it's been 3 months since I last posted about my situation with my husband and his dad after my miscarriage. I've got some updates for you all, and let me tell you, it's been quite the journey. So, after that conversation with my husband, where I told him I felt unsupported because his dad kept coming over. Things got pretty tense. My husband was initially defensive, saying he didn't realize I meant his dad too. But after a few days of cold shoulders and long, silent dinners, he finally broke down and apologized. He admitted he should have understood what I meant and promised to talk to his dad. The following Sunday, I braced myself for another day locked away in my bedroom. But to my surprise, my father-in-law didn't show up. My husband had actually gone to his dad's place and did the laundry for him. He came back with a small peace offering from his dad, a potted plant. It wasn't much, but it was a start. But that's not the jaw-dropping part. A couple of weeks later, my husband's dad showed up at our door, unannounced. I was ready to retreat, but my husband stopped me. He sat his dad down and had the confrontation I never thought I'd witness. He told his dad that the comments and behavior had to stop, that it was hurting our family. His dad tried to brush it off, but my husband stood firm. It was the first time I'd ever seen him confront his dad like that. The surprise came when his dad actually broke down in tears. He confessed that he had been struggling with his own issues since his wife, my husband's mom, had passed away years ago. He admitted he had been taking it out on me because he didn't know how to deal with the grief. It was a moment I never expected, and it changed everything. And from that day on, my father-in-law started to make an effort. He apologized to me, and though it was awkward at first, we started to build a new kind of relationship. He even started to bond with my son, his grandson, in a way that was genuine and kind. Meanwhile, my friend, who had been giving me space, came back into our lives. She and my son picked up right where they left off, and her support meant the world to me. She helped me through some of my darkest days, and I'll always be grateful for her friendship. As for my husband and me, we've been working on our communication. He's been more attentive, and I've been more open about my needs and feelings. It's not perfect, but we're getting there. And here's the happy ending. I'm pregnant again. We found out a few weeks ago, and this time, my husband has been my rock. He's been there for every doctor's appointment, holding my hand and making sure I feel supported every step of the way. My father-in-law, believe it or not, was overjoyed when we told him. He's been nothing but positive, and he's even started talking about all the things he wants to do with his new grandchild. It's like he's a changed man. My wife's weight killed our spark, so I tried talking, but she shut down. Then I found her secret that changed everything, but her texts left us on the brink. Wife and I have been together for 15 years, married for 11. Our life is generally great. We have 2 small kids, both of whom we adore. We agree on all the big things in life: finances, politics, spirituality, how to raise our children, etc. We are not loaded by any means, but we live comfortably enough. We have a house in a great neighborhood and can pay all our bills and have money left over to do fun things. I feel bad even complaining because I know compared to a lot of folks we have it made, but the physical spark in our relationship is essentially non-existent. My wife has gained a significant amount of weight since she had our first child 5 years ago. I'm not talking 25, 30, even 50 pounds. I'm talking probably 100, 150. It's affecting our relationship deeply. My wife has gained a significant amount of weight since she had our first child 5 years ago. I'm not talking 25, 30, even 50 pounds. I'm talking probably 100 to 150. It's affecting our relationship deeply. I have almost grown resentful of the fact that she no longer considers taking care of herself a priority, nor does she care about her appearance. I've tried having very gentle conversations about the topic. She is, of course, sensitive to the subject, so I'm sure to not abuse her with words, call her fat, etc. The most I've said is that I wish the physical part of our relationship was different, and that I feel that my attraction for her has dwindled. Yes, I realize there's no nice way to say this. I really tried my best to say it as softly as I could, while still making sure she understood how I felt. She took this very personally and tried to turn it around on me by saying that she's not going to raise her daughter to be conscious of her body, feel bad about how she looks, etc. She's a good person and a good mom. She works very hard, probably to a fault. and I think she's at her limit of managing stress between work, raising a family, etc. I want to encourage her to try to get healthy, but she has zero interest in even engaging in the conversation. She says she's always struggled with weight and no diets, etc. have ever worked for her. I've been with her long enough to know she's capable of doing anything she sets her mind to. So it's frustrating to see that she just straight up refuses to engage here. I am almost positive she is afraid to fail somehow. As an aside, a few years ago, I was unhappy with how I looked and felt. I took the initiative to change my life via regular exercise and diet, and I'm much happier and healthier now. I've tried encouraging her to join me, work out, etc., but never get any traction. I've basically given up on asking because it's pointless. I don't know what to do anymore. She has zero interest in intimacy because, in her words, and I get where she's coming from, she feels unwanted. We still do have intimacy somewhat regularly, but without me being the initiator, I think we'd go months without. I refuse to give up on a marriage and life together and leave my children just because of something as superficial as one's weight, but at the same time, I feel like I don't know what else to do here. Appreciate your advice. Edit. Responding to a couple of themes in the comments so far. 1. I don't see her grossly harassing food. She's not shoving in McDonald's daily. We eat pretty healthily at home. We don't drink in excess, etc. I think she may eat poorly at work as a coping mechanism for the stress. She works in a very high-profile, high-stress field, but I honestly think part of this might be something genetic/hormonal. 2. I'm not expecting her to go to the gym for 10 hours a week or become a fitness model overnight. I don't even want that. I want her to be healthy and to be at a weight that will make herself feel good as well as me feel good about her. I don't go to the gym 10 hours per week. I do simple cardio and make sure I take walks, etc. to stay active. 3. I understand that pregnancy and childbirth ravages a woman's body. I have nothing but respect for my wife for birthing 2 healthy children. But I do not buy that as an excuse to just be carte blanche reckless with your health postpartum. Our youngest is almost 2 years old now. I wouldn't have dreamed to make this thread when she was still an infant. 4. I do my fair share around the house. We balance out responsibilities pretty well, but I definitely pull my own and am under no expectation that she should be doing more around the house or with the kids than me. Thanks for the words of advice so far. I'm really trying my best to approach this as objectively as I can. It's a sensitive subject. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. At this point, your wife needs medical intervention. This is not normal postpartum weight gain. There are physical or mental health issues at play, and she needs a workup with her doctor to figure out what is going on and also to understand what she has now been put at risk for. If no specific cause can be found, she may be a good candidate for an anti-obesity medication. Ozempic may be an option here that can help get her metabolism back on track, or even consider bariatric surgery. At this point, it's unrealistic to think she can lose the weight through lifestyle modification alone. She needs to do something, or she won't live to meet your grandchildren. Comment 2. I don't have the time or inclination to check if anyone has suggested this already, but I'd say invite her on walks, not for exercise, but as a way to reconnect. And it sounds to me like you two need to reconnect. I always found walks to be a good way to talk things out, and she will get a little exercise. Also, being in nature, if you have a nearby walking trail, is a good way to relieve a little stress. Now for the update. Hey everyone, back with an update on the situation with my wife and our relationship struggles. It's been a wild 3 days, and I'm still trying to process everything that's happened. So 2 nights ago, after the kids were asleep, my wife and I sat down to have another talk. I thought it would be a good idea to approach the subject again, but this time I wanted to focus on health rather than appearance. I mentioned how I was worried about her well-being and the example we were setting for our kids. She listened quietly, which was a change from our previous conversations. Suddenly, she broke down crying. She confessed that she had been secretly seeing a doctor because she was worried about her health too. She told me she's been diagnosed with a thyroid condition, which has been contributing to her weight gain and making it hard for her to lose weight. I was floored. All this time, I thought she didn't care, but she was silently struggling with her health and self-esteem. I felt like the worst husband ever. Here I was, focusing on the physical aspect when she was dealing with something much more serious. I apologized for not being more supportive and understanding. We decided to work together to find ways to manage her condition and improve our lifestyle as a family. The next day, things took an unexpected turn. I came home early from work to surprise her with a healthy, home-cooked meal, only to find her in tears again. She had just gotten off the phone with her boss. She was being let go from her high-stress job due to downsizing. The job she had poured her heart and soul into, the one that caused her so much stress, was now gone. I was shocked. She was devastated. We spent the night talking about what this meant for us, financially and emotionally. It was a tough conversation, but it also brought us closer. We realized that this job had been a major source of stress for both of us, and maybe this was a blessing in disguise. The following day, we started to make plans for the future. We talked about her taking some time off to focus on her health and our family. We also discussed me picking up some freelance work to help with the bills. It felt like we were finally on the same page after a long time. But then last night, things got even more complicated. My wife's phone kept buzzing with notifications while she was in the shower. I usually respect her privacy, but given everything that had happened, I was worried it might be something important. I checked her phone and saw a string of messages from a guy I didn't know. They were flirty, with talk about missing each other and wanting to meet up. I was stunned. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. When she came out of the shower, I confronted her about the messages. She broke down and admitted that she had developed an emotional connection with this guy from her work. She said nothing physical had happened, but she felt understood and appreciated by him in a way she hadn't felt with me in a long time. I didn't know what to say. I was angry, hurt, and felt betrayed. We argued for hours. She said she was sorry and that it was a mistake. She promised to cut off all contact with him. I wanted to believe her, but trust is not something that can be repaired overnight. So here we are, trying to navigate through her health issues, her job loss, and now this emotional affair. I'm committed to our marriage and our family, but these revelations have taken a toll on me. I'm not sure where we go from here, but I'm hoping we can find a way to rebuild our relationship and come out stronger on the other side. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.